Welcome to Strong by Nature, your portable campfire sessions about living strong, balanced, and connected, the Grizzly way. So, today we're talking about strength and mobility that you can take anywhere. Because if your body can't move well, then what's the real point? I wanted this episode to be the foundation of the body, right? A little bit more about my experiences, I suppose. So, I got into personal training when we were training at a CrossFit gym. And the owner of the CrossFit gym at the time obviously saw that I had a little bit of potential because he hit me up one day. We owned the coffee shop up on the corner as well. So he walked up one day and said to me over a coffee, would I be interested in studying, getting my Cert 3 and Cert 4 in fitness so that I could start helping out with the classes and, earn a little bit of cash on the side because, he saw that, I was obviously trying to help people anyway and it wouldn't hurt gaining the extra knowledge. So I studied to become a personal trainer, and that's where things really sort of opened up a lot more for me in terms of strength and mobility. Like everything wasn't just about training anymore, it was a lot more about understanding the body and how it really worked. So yeah, I was doing CrossFit for a long time, and then after a bit, I kind of got a little bit disillusioned because we were doing competitions, and a lot of the guys in the like sort of local regional scene competitions were like ex fucking amateur powerlifters and ex bodybuilders, and like everyone was on the gear. Nobody was brave enough to jump into the advanced competitions, so like the intermediate where I was in, it was filled with a lot of people that were good enough to be in the advanced, but they knew they weren't going to win it, so they'd rather drop down and win the intermediate one. And I'm a slimmer built dude. Like I'm just not built for that. So it did get a little bit frustrating after a while that like I was there to test myself and see how well I could do, but I kind of just felt like it wasn't really the most fair test because I was in there with dudes, and like we had open discussions with some of these guys after the competitions, and they were saying how oh yeah, like I'm not on the gear anymore and it's so much better now, blah blah blah. But still it was like, yeah, but fuck, you got as strong as you are because you got on the gear first, and then you jumped into one of these things and you're saying you're clean now, but like that's nah. Like I haven't used any gear, so it's not really a fair comparison. So I just kind of got over that, and then I started getting more into calisthenics and moving the body more, and started dabbling with the idea of mobility a little bit more, and could see the real benefits in learning things like fucking handstands and all these cool tricks. Maybe it's the skateboarder in me, just want to focus on tricks. And then anyway, I was making a bit of content, doing the online training thing, and a friend of mine was seeing me doing all of these challenges, and him and his girlfriend were sat down talking to me one night, and he's a martial artist, so he's trains jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, MMA, all of it. And so his girlfriend said to me that she would be interested to see how I went with jiu-jitsu, and that I should do that as one of my next challenges. And so I went along and did a class and fell in love, and yeah, jiu-jitsu became my big sort of way of testing myself physically. And I'm still training now. I'm a purple belt now. I'm going on 5 years of jiu-jitsu now, competed a few times, and yeah, the background and all the different things I've done competition wise and training wise, and then bringing in that focus of mobility, I found really helped me transition into jiu-jitsu. And there's more things I'm going to talk about with jiu-jitsu as well when we do the breathwork episode and all these other episodes coming up. But yeah, finding that functional strength first of all through CrossFit, and then seeing more of the importance of mobility with the calisthenics, and blending the two of those together when I got to jiu-jitsu, I could really see the importance of both of those things in what I consider a real world survival situation. Like there's a lot of people out there that'll talk shit on jiu-jitsu. It's not a very good form of self-defense because you never want to end up on the ground in a street fight, blah blah blah. But the reality is quite often street fights do end up on the ground, and if you don't know what you're doing there, you're going to get fucking destroyed, aren't you? So knowing how to control somebody else is a very beneficial form of self-defense. And so being able to do that with the functional strength and the mobility as well, like actually being strong in real life situations, and having the mobility to be strong in stretched out weird positions, like it's super beneficial just from a self-defense perspective, let alone all of the other real life situations it comes up in. As well, like other things I've really noticed it with lately, having that functional real life strength. And honestly, I'm kind of a little bit bummed out that the word functional strength and functional training is so fucking abused and just thrown out there now, because it is such a good focus for your training. It's been used so often that people are just overhearing it. So I'd get over using it as well. But it really is like that actual applicable strength to your real life situations. So yeah, another real world application of this that I've seen recently is we recently moved house, and we packed up the whole garden beds and everything that I made. We put all the soil into sacks. I kept all the sacks just in case. We moved our whole garden bed, so we had 40 25 kilo bags of soil for our gardens. And so we had some guys help us move, and these were like big strong guys. They weren't movers, they were just big strong guys that we knew through family friends. But seeing them have no problem picking up the heavy bags but struggling to walk and move and carry them really showed the benefit of those functional movements. Because functional is moving your body in the way it was designed to move, right? We push things, we pull things, we carry things, we hang off things, we hinge at the hips, we bend over, we hinge at the hips, we squat down. So those are the types of movements we should be doing regularly. And so I've regularly incorporated into my training some form of carry, whether it's a single arm or both arms. And I've always loved carrying around, like random heavy bags, sandbags and medicine balls and just odd shaped things, because what's that classic man thing, you don't do more than one trip with the groceries from the car. So you've got to be strong enough to be able to do that. You've got to be training like that regularly. And so, yeah, that really hit home, seeing these guys, as strong as they were, they struggled to be strong and move because they hadn't done that functional training. They'd literally just been lifting, picking things up, pressing things, which is a part of it, but you've got to have the full array. And then mobility as well, like I touched on that before with Jiu-Jitsu. Like the difference between mobility and flexibility is how long you can stretch the muscle. Mobility is being able to move and be strong while those muscles are stretched out. So look, I'm not a big guy. I'm regular height, regular weight. So what's that, 180 centimeters, and I'm about 80 kilos. So like I'm not a big dude. And especially training jiu-jitsu, when I went back to New Zealand training jiu-jitsu and training with all these ex-rugby players, like big guys that are used to holding people down, getting people down and holding them down, like it was a real test of, okay, like how good am I technically, like where is my leverage at? And mobility really comes into that. You end up in these awkward positions with your legs straight out over your head, but can you actually push back from that position? Can you tuck your leg in and hook your foot in behind somebody's knee and flick them up over your head? Like if you don't have the strength in that long range of motion, like it's never going to work. So that's really what mobility is for me, is being strong in these long positions. And again, working in the garden, like there's long times of the day when you're bent over, you're digging, and it's the same with any of my carpentry work. You spend a lot of time bent over sanding things, and so those are all positions you need to be strong in. And that's not to say you need to go to the gym to do those positions, but you need to be in those positions more. You need to be spending time there. Touching more on those kind of foundations of functional strength and mobility. So our body, we push and we pull. We push and pull overhead, so vertically, and we pull horizontally, and we push horizontally. So some examples of that is just a straight overhead shoulder presses, pushing above your head, pushing vertically. Also dips, preferably on a parallel bar or a straight bar. I don't really like the sitting on a bench with your arms behind you. It's just not really a good position for your shoulder to be pushing through. Chin-ups is a perfect example of a vertical pulling movement. Some sort of a row, whether it's a seated row or a bent over row, is your horizontal pulling. Bench press, push-ups is your horizontal press. And then hinging, so we bend at our hips and we bend over and we pick something up, like a deadlift or a good morning or a kettlebell swing. These are our hinging motions. And then there's our squats, and you can split that up into split squats as well. So a lunge or a Cossack squat, and these are all positions we need to be strong in, we need to be mobile in. And then there's our carrying and our hang. So these are things we should be implementing into our training every week, and you don't need to be doing it that often or that hard out either. Like, I do 20-minute workouts when I do my workouts. I usually try and keep my training to Monday to Friday, and lately I'll do one day that's more strength focused, and then the next day might be more mobility focused. So it's still a workout. There's still strength involved, but it's not super heavy loads. I might do a bit of a cardio day, whether that's just going for a run or a swim or something else, and then I'll do another couple of strength and mobility. Throw some jiu-jitsu classes in there at the moment as well, and that's like a pretty good, well-rounded workout, well-rounded routine for the week, I mean. But yeah, 20, 30-minute workouts, nothing crazy. You don't need to be going that hard. I play around with different, what's the word for it? I play around with different themes, I guess, for my workouts. So I've been playing around with micro workouts a lot lately. So I'll take an exercise that's a bit harder, something like, say, a pistol squat or a single arm push-up. I do a lot of bodyweight training now, but I'll break it up into, okay, so I could probably sit down and knock out 3, 4 max single arm push-ups. But if I sit down and just do 1 or 2, that intensity still hits up to about that 80%. And then I'll rest 10, 15 minutes minimum. And then I'll come back later on in the day and I'll do another set at that same intensity. And I'm seeing real benefits from doing little sessions like that multiple times throughout the day. It still ends up equating to about 20, 30 minutes in total, but I mean, I get my lifestyle suits that a lot more. I'm working from home, but I mean, you could do that from work as well, you know, in the morning, you know, boom, just knock out a small little micro workout, 2 exercises, about 80%, 4 or 5 reps, and then go to work, go about your day. On your lunch break, do the same thing, boom, 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 knock them out in 5 minutes. When you get home, do it again, boom, boom, boom. You're still going to see benefits from that, and especially if your focus isn't about being the world's biggest, strongest person, then this is all super beneficial. That's the mindset I find a lot of us kind of need to get away from, is that our goals aren't that of some 19-year-old influencer that's just trying to get as many sponsors and blah, 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 get the world's biggest abs and all of this kind of thing. That's not your goal, so why follow their advice and their routines? Like, if your goals, like mine, are just about being a bit better every day, keeping up with your kids, about preservation, about just being able to do day-to-day things without throwing your back out, you don't need to fucking destroy yourself in the process of doing that. Like, strength and mobility, they don't require fancy gyms. They don't require you having to do too much. And that's like the real beauty of this kind of training, you know. Like, there's so much more I'd rather be doing with my day than counting repetitions and fucking building big muscles. I'd rather go through movements that I know my body needs to do, and once I start getting good at those, just start expanding on that, because progressive overload is the key. Like, your body will get used to these movements. That's why I've switched to throwing in some single hand push-ups, or I'll put my feet up on something and change the angle, or I'll change my hand position. Same with bodyweight squats. You know, bodyweight squats aren't super effective as a strength building thing for me anymore, because my legs are strong now, so I'm moving to single leg pistol squats, I'm doing maybe like I might do some jump squats, I might do some bounds, I'll do split squats with my leg up on something. I bring balance into the equation, like you'll do one leg but turn the body a slightly different way. Like it's about making these simple movements that we need to do on a day to day more difficult, so we're ready to do them in every occasion. Like body weight is enough. Obviously you need some equipment for, say, for me, of your vertical pull, so your pull up. It's hard to do that movement without any equipment. So a pull up bar, if you can get that, is probably the only piece of equipment you need. And then for your carries, you need something to carry, but that can be fucking anything. You could, the days that you do the grow series, just be like, okay, let's see how many I can do, and once it's easy, be like, fuck it, I'm going to look like the world's biggest weirdo, but maybe I'll walk in and out twice just to get that time under tension with the carry. I went down to the park just down the road from me the other day, and somebody had like ripped a fucking street sign out of the ground, and so there's this big long steel pole with a lump of concrete in the end, and I was like, perfect, I'll just lift that up and walk around with that. There's my carry done. The hanging as well. Hanging is so important for all of those tiny muscles in your shoulders that just don't get enough attention. It's going to decompress your spine. It's going to improve your grip strength and your forearm strength. And I don't know the exact statistics on this, but there's statistics out there saying that grip strength directly correlates, if that's the right word, with life expectancy. People that have got good grip strength have been proven to live longer. Fact check me on that. All statistics are pretty fucking sus and dodgy anyway, but I feel like that's probably pretty accurate. Having good grip strength is very important for a lot of things. I train with, like I say, minimal equipment. So while we were still in New Zealand, I had a adjustable kettlebell. So it was a bit more expensive. It was about $140 New Zealand. So what's that, about fucking $70, $80 US? But I could pop plates out, and it went from 3 kilos up to 18 kilos. So that was perfect. Like I could do a whole lot of different movements with that. I have resistance bands with me here. I've always used those, and I've got a set of gymnastics rings, so just some wooden rings that I bought off, I think I got them off Alibaba for about $20, and then just some ratchet straps from the hardware store. At the moment, we've got, just down the park from our house, we've got a pull-up bar, and there's a couple of parallel bars there, and then there's like a bench seat that we use for like step-ups and box jumps. So I'm like, fuck, I've got everything there. I haven't actually unpacked the rings since we moved. But you don't need a whole lot. And like the other thing as well is, like, I get comments all the time on my physique, like, you're a personal trainer that looks like he needs a personal trainer, and it's like, yeah, but you've got your goals and your priorities and my priorities and goals all mixed up. Like I'm not trying to look a certain way. I'm not trying to achieve the physique that somebody has achieved 9 times out of 10 with fucking performance enhancing drugs. And as well, the other things are not a lot of people realize with the photos and that we're seeing with these influencers online, and it goes back to the old supermodels and that back in the day. Like it's all smoke and mirrors. Like, to get yourself that lean, you've got to dehydrate yourself as well. Like, to get your body fat down that low, you dehydrate yourself. Like, ask a professional bodybuilder like what their routine is a couple of days before they go out on stage, and that, like, they're dehydrating themselves as well. You can't maintain that physique year round. It would be such a nightmare. And even getting down to that physique, I don't think people realize exactly what it takes to get down there. Like, a lot of these people, like, they're going to be fucking miserable. Like, the amount of food and treat they have to cut out of their diet. Like, for me, it's not fucking worth it. Like, I'm strong enough, I'm fit enough, I'm not at a unhealthy amount of body fat. Like, I'm content and happy in my skin. I look at myself in the mirror and I think, okay, like, I'm happy with that. For the amount of effort that I want to put in, I'm happy with where I'm at. And that's what it has to come down to for you. It's that ratio. Like, how much do you want to deny yourself? How hard do you want to work? and where do you actually want to look? Like, find yourself somewhere in the middle of that, because this is all about lifestyle and balance, and that's what I talk to my clients about in terms of aesthetics and functional training. And to be fair, just because of the way I am and the way I talk, I don't attract any clients that don't fall in with those values anyway. Like, people that are about that way of life don't generally follow my social media for very long, because there's a million other pages out there that are going to be telling you that other shit, if that's your goal. And as well, like, if that's your goal, cool. Like, it's not a bad goal. I'm just saying, for me and for so many other people out there, like, there's other shit we want to do. Like, I've got a life as well, like, I like having a beer, I like having a glass of wine, I like going out to a pub and, having a burger and watching a game and eating, drinking some beers and having some treats. I'd want to do other shit during the day than just spend my whole life in the gym and counting out my calories and doing all of that. Like, it's about slowing everything down a little bit, right? Look, training outside as well is another massive thing for me, and I think a lot more people would benefit from just spending time outside, doing a bodyweight workout with no shoes on, reconnecting with the soil and letting the muscles in your feet engage and do something. Like, we're in a society now where everybody wears shoes and our feet have adjusted to that, and a lot of these problems everybody's having in their knees and hips, it comes from lack of exercise and all of these other things, but the problems stem from our feet. Like, our feet just aren't strong anymore. Our feet aren't in tune with what they're supposed to do. So spend more time without shoes on. Do your lifting barefoot. Go down and do your squats at the park on uneven ground and, with bare feet on, and let those muscles in your feet re-engage and start doing what they need to do, because everything's gonna flow up from there. I was listening to a coach at the gym I very first started out at. He was ex-bodybuilder guy, giving a guy a run through with the bodybuilding thing and telling his client off because the client didn't want to train his legs. And he was used the analogy of your legs are like the roots. You need to build up the roots and the strong foundation, and everything else will flow on from there. But I'd take it a step further, and like, it's your feet first. You've got to have strong, capable feet, and everything else will flow on from there. I broke my leg in a jiu-jitsu competition last year. My fault. Should have tapped. Didn't realize how much danger I was in. Anyway, broke a bone in my leg. Couldn't walk for 9 weeks while I was recovering. Had surgery and all of that. And I'm pretty much a year on from starting to walk again. And I still struggle with the mobility in my ankle. My left leg is still a little bit weaker than my right leg. Like, these things are going to take time. And to be fair, like, I got plates and screws and fucking cables and all shit holding my ankle together now. Like, it's probably never going to be exactly the same again, and that's fine. I'm content with that. But I really, really see just how important that ankle mobility is now, because like, I can still do a good pistol squat, a single leg squat on my right leg, but my left leg it's not quite as good. I have to lift the heel off a little bit because the ankle mobility's not there. And that's another thing I want to touch on, is like, pistol squats, ankle mobility is everything for your pistol squat. It's not just a strength building exercise. Like, if your ankle can't go through its full range of motion and you can't get your knee over your toe far enough, you're never going to be able to sit down into a proper pistol squat. And my ankle mobility as well, once I started walking and moving my legs again, and I was desperate to start stretching and doing some mobility and all of that again, sitting down on a squat, I could feel my whole body twist as I went down into the squat, because that leg there was no range of motion in that ankle. So my hip and knee still knew where it needed to go, could still go where it needed to go. But because the ankle couldn't, my whole torso, my whole hips, pelvis, everything would like twist as I was going down into the squat. So that left hip would push backwards, and I could feel my whole right side of my body coming forward as my left went back. And it took a long time to just keep slowly moving through that, keeping my body straight and keep moving. Let the ankle find its range of motion before trying to push everything else to match the other side. So slowing down these movements is super important, and that's what I really understood from a different perspective in that moment. Like, I've always been aware of slowing down movements from a strength gaining perspective. I've used that technique and still use that technique with these new clients I've got now. They're struggling to get pull-ups, so jump to the top of the bar, lower yourself down slowly. It doesn't matter if you can't pull yourself up straight away, because you're going to be building strength by lowering yourself down. You are going to be able to lower more weight than you can lift weight, and you are going to be able to hold more weight than you can lower, if that makes sense. So just being able to hang to begin with is a big step towards getting your first pull-up. And once you can do that, jump to the top of the bar, use a band to get yourself up there, whatever, start at the top, however you get up there, and just focus on lowering yourself down. Once you can lower yourself down for a good 20 seconds, you're probably going to have the strength to be able to pull yourself back up again. So slowing movements down is another massive key towards building the strength. I would do this test with clients as well. I'd call it a 1 minute push-up, so 30 seconds down, 30 seconds back up again, and they were fucked afterwards. You get the biggest, strongest guy ever trying to hold himself for 1 minute through that motion while the muscles are tense. It's insane how effective that is. Alright, so let's look at a couple of things that we can start adding in this week. So let's start off with, say you're not doing any exercise and you don't really know where to start. The two best exercises I could suggest to start with right now that you can do anywhere is your squats and your push-ups. Push-ups are a far better exercise for your core than sit-ups are, and squats as well. You know, they're both functional movements. They're using multiple muscle groups, and your core is having to stabilize and balance the whole time, whereas a sit-up is just targeting your six-pack. You're not really working the rest of your core. Your core is made up of 7 or 8 different muscle groups, so just working one of them is the same as just doing bicep curls and wondering why your arms aren't getting any bigger. Like, there's a fuckload of muscles in your arms. You need to train all of them. So push-ups and squats is that's where I would start at if I was a beginner and I just wanted to do something, just wanted to get moving. And you can just do that in 5 minutes every day. Do a few sets of push-ups. If you can't do a full push-up, push up from on your knees. What do they call it? The girly style. You're probably not allowed to call it that anymore. But pushing up from your knees, and then get up onto your toes in the full position and lower yourself back down slowly. You are eventually going to build up the strength to be able to push yourself back up again. Or if you can do a couple, aim to do a set of 10. Do as many as you can on your toes in full style, and once you can't push up anymore, then switch to your knees and do the slow back down. And then squats as well. Squats is a super beneficial exercise. I've talked about it a bit now. To get the most benefit out of a squat, you need to get your hip crease below your knee line. So if you can't do that safely to begin with, just focus on finding something like a ledge or a chair or something that is about your knee height, and sit down to the chair and then sit back up again. Do that as many times as you can until you can build up the strength to be able to get down into the full squat on its own. So those would be the couple of things I would start with. If you can do a pull-up as well, perfect. If you can find somewhere to do that motion, ideal. But if I were to just give you 2 exercises to get yourself started, it would be your push-ups and your squats. So if you've got a little bit more experience though, and you want to add something a little bit different in, then I would look at prioritizing your mobility instead. And a good starting point for this, I find, is to sit down in a nice deep squat and do what I call squat rotations. So you're down in a nice deep squat, you're down as low as you can get, sit there for 20-30 seconds, get yourself ready, and focus on straightening yourself back up, opening your chest back up. If you can't do this without falling over, then hold on to something. Like the way I first started improving my squat depth and my mobility there was by holding on to a table leg, just to keep me as straight for as long as I could, and then I'd try and let go of the leg, hold on to it again, blah blah blah. But to do the rotation, you're now going to take your left arm. You're going to put your elbow into the crease on your left knee, and you're going to put your palm onto the crease on your right knee. So you're creating a bridge between your two knees. You are then going to turn your right arm up towards the ceiling and open your chest right up, and that's also going to open the midsection in your spine and everything right up. And if I'm just going to throw a blanket thing out there, most people are stiff through that area, through our mid back and through our chest, because of the whole how we are the majority of the day. We're sitting down, we're hunched over, we're looking at our phone, we're in the car sitting down, slouched, hunched over, we're watching TV, sitting down, slouched, hunched over at the computer. So this particular movement, doing this regularly, 30 seconds at a time, and 30 seconds in the morning, 30 seconds midday, 30 seconds at night, just doing that a few times during the day, you're going to start to find your whole mid-back loosening up, your posture getting better, that pain behind your shoulder blade is going to get better, because that's come from the muscles in our chest being too tight, and they get too tight because we're rounding our shoulder in. So let's just focus on those couple of things as a takeaway from this session. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on with your strength and mobility as well. So please share your little campfire takeaway below, or let me know some things that you're working on, because the whole point of this is to be able to bring all these things back up at a later day to start snowballing conversations off what I'm saying and what you guys are picking up and taking from that. So yeah. The bottom line is, strength isn't about looking a certain way. It's about having the freedom to move, the freedom to live. And the best thing is, like, you can do this anywhere. You don't need anything but your body to get started. So yeah, that's today's little campfire session all done and dusted. Stay strong, stay balanced, stay connected.